All right, hello, welcome back. Another edition live from Drew's house. Hope everybody's doing all right. Look who I found.
Hello.
The return of Sarah is here. How are you, Sarah?
I'm doing good, Drew.
Good.
How are you?
Busy times. You get the fall has been busy. Fall has been crazy. Good stretch of weather lately.
Mm-hmm.
That's been good.
Oh yeah, it's been beautiful. Good running weather.
You've been running a lot.
Mm-hmm.
How is it out there? I haven't been running.
Actually, not my favorite running weather. I like to run when it's a little bit colder.
Yeah.
So it's been a little too warm for me.
Well, those days of 70, I think, are away from us now. I think we're about to get into legit fall weather.
Yeah, I like more like 40s, 50s to run.
Well, that's good. Coffee mug, cheers.
Cheers.
What do you got there? That's a new mug in the house.
In honor of Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Oh, yes. Rest in peace.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize they were making coffee mugs.
Oh, they make everything.
Is that an online purchase?
Yeah.
Yeah. You can get anything on this. That's what these packages are that show up to the house.
Yes.
Excellent. Dogs have been enjoying the extended kind of summer weather. We went to the beach the other day. They are hilarious at the beach. Mookie is the youngest dog. He's like, what, a year and a half?
He's 2 now. Mm-hmm.
He's 2 now? And he just runs like he's the happiest dog on earth. And Henry kind of does the same, just a little slower.
Yes. It's their favorite place in the world.
Favorite place in the world. I love it.
That
too.
in Maine.
Yeah.
The beach in Maine.
It is a cool spot to be when you can go to the beach here on the North Shore. So many great spots. School's going well.
It's going.
Yeah. I know. A lot of concerns, I'm sure, ahead of the winter with the flu and everything too, right?
Yeah, it's just tough. Not just corona, but you really have to be careful with any symptoms of anything possibly that could be related. You have to be very cautious. So it's tough.
Interesting. Well, keep trucking along, will you?
Mm-hmm. We will.
My guest today, the Wang Theater, celebrating 95 years.
Oh, wow.
Beautiful Wang Theater.
Yeah, that's pretty.
Boston's theater district. And we're going to talk with a photographer who's being partnered with Wang's, works with him, and he's coming in. He's kind of going to showcase all these photos. Kind of a good thing to do in a pandemic because they're not having any shows at the moment. They're going to have a show off of all these great photos over the years and great exhibits. And I'm going to talk with Ron Pownall about that in just a moment. So he's coming on. And some of these major artists that we definitely know are going to be featured. So that's pretty cool.
Awesome.
So we will do that. I take it you're going to get on with your day?
I am, but it was nice to say hi.
It was good to say hi. People miss you very much. Oh. All right, we'll bring in Ron here right now. All right, welcome back. Afternoon drive here. Hope everybody's doing well. Live from Drew's house. I'm very excited about this show here today. As mentioned, we got a big event coming up for the Wang Theater. And Ron Pownall joins us now. Ron, how are you? First time on the show. Hope you're doing all right.
I'm doing great. Thank you very much.
You are a man with a lot of history behind you. You've been taking pictures and for a whole lot of years, and you've seen a few things.
Let's have a couple beers and I'll tell you about them.
That sounds good too. I'm fine with that. Well, first of all, tell me about this event. We got the Wang Theater celebrating 95 years, and they brought you. Had to be the centerpiece of this, obviously, with all your photos. So tell me a little bit about the whole.
I don't know about that. I'm supplementing, with no shows going on.
Yeah.
Let's go back in time, and the Wang used to be called the Boston Music Hall, from the 50s to the 90s. And then it became the Wang Theater and so forth. Anyway, I worked for Rolling Stone magazine for about 25 years. I worked with Aerosmith in Boston, Giles and Cars and everybody in town. Ted Nugent, I did 5 album covers for Ted Nugent.
Wow.
We never talk politics. Anyway, so a lot of the shows were at the Boston Music Hall. It was the venue. 3,800 seats, so it was sort of the biggest venue in town. And I think I probably shot between 50 and 60 gigs there, starting with, I have a list here, ABBA, Aerosmith, Allman, Gregg, Beach Boys, Beck, blah, blah, blah.
Blah, 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 yeah. I can guarantee you that list does not drop at all. Man, the names you've seen.
So anyway, so when I work with the Folk Americana Roots Museum with Joe Spalding at the Wang. And so anyway, when things shut down, except for the Ghost Light series, which is going on every other Friday, live performance from the Wang, we decided to just sort of go back in time and find some old images and put them up on the marquee. And I haven't been down to see them yet, but I gather people stop and look. It's like, oh my God.
You got the, has it been, are you one of those people who kind of doesn't really like to look back or usually wouldn't, but the pandemic has kind of given you the opportunity to do it and you found it rewarding?
Well, actually now I make my living now licensing the uses of all those old images.
Well, there you go.
I'm with Getty.
Yeah.
So they're always, contacting me and say, hey, do you have this and such? And I have a lot in an era that they weren't very strong with. So it's always a good call for my work. And then here was an opportunity to share it, with the city of Boston and the Wang.
Do you surprise yourself sometimes looking back and saying, seeing some of your work and saying, man, that was a good shot?
I do. And I surprise myself by going back sometimes into the files and finding something that I overlooked or forgot about. I have a pretty good memory, so I have a pretty good sense of what I have in the files. But I know we had to scan at least a dozen that were I only had them in my files as slides or negatives. They weren't digitized, but you have to digitize to get it up on the marquee. And they were just things that, they were sort of forgotten gems, I guess.
The kids are like, wait, you're not just using your phone?
Yeah. I wish.
And I do know there is something, I'm sure you have noticed all the big technology improvements over the years with cameras, but is there something cool about the old photos too? Just standing in the pit or wherever you are, side stage, I don't know where you're taking a lot of these photos, but that brings you back and just makes it extra special?
Yes. As I look at it, things are a lot easier today because on a lot of the era in which I shot, there was no autofocus. The lighting wasn't nearly as good as it is today. I think shooting the dead, they only knew red lights. They had no other colors. It was just all red. And color film back then couldn't render red very well. So that was all. So I just shot black and white, basically, with the dead. Wow. But it was, and I guess I'm sort of, when I look through that, I'm proud that, I got the focus on the money. It was all by hand, nothing auto. And the same with the exposure. The camera that I used didn't have a meter. I had to do it just by knowledge in my head, because I was quicker to figure out the light, and the light can trick you. It can trick your camera because there's so much dark. If you're shooting a wide shot, the camera thinks, wow, it's really dark. Let me open up the lens, let in more light, and it's too bright. So you just have to learn that knowledge.
Does it help to be, I'm getting the impression just from the brief moment we talked beforehand too, that you're a music fan as well. I'm assuming for your line of work, it also helps to be a music fan and appreciate the moment and be in the moment. It probably helps you anticipate shots. Am I right?
You are so right. It's like sometimes I get carried away. I remember, I think the first or second time I shot The Who, and after I was back home, and one of my roommates said, hey, well, did they play whatever it was? I said, I don't know. I was like so kind of caught up in the sort of being carried away with the music, of being there to capture a moment. And I guess I preferred to shoot live, although I would shoot backstage, recording studio, in my studio all the time. But there's something about the excitement of catching a moment that was, a high point, and I was there, right exposure, right focus, and I got it. It was like it's very satisfying.
Ron Pownall joining us, been shooting all these great concerts for, do you remember the first concert that you got paid to go take shots of?
Yep, I do. I remember my first 4.
Okay.
Okay, I got a summertime job at a newspaper. So my first 4 concerts were Janis Joplin, Jimi Hendrix, Jefferson Airplane, and Cream.
No way.
It's like I found out what I'm doing the rest of my life. Yeah, I was in Chicago. It was like a summer job after my junior year in college, or between junior and senior year in college. It's a summer job. They hired me, and I volunteered to shoot all the music because I was 20. I was a kid. The next youngest photographer was like 33 and had a family. He didn't want to go out at night.
Yeah.
So I said, I'm your man.
Wow, how cool is that? That what an intro! My goodness, they all turned out to be pretty successful.
It's okay. Yeah.
What did you ever take a shot and have because it's funny, musicians I have noticed some more than others, but they'll tend to read reviews and they'll tend to look at their photos, and sometimes they'll even write to those people who wrote those reviews or wrote to those people who took those shots. Have you ever heard back from a musician about a shot that you took?
In a good way.
Yes.
But I've not, I always felt I'm on the same side as the musician. I'm an anti-paparazzi guy.
Yes.
That's an anathema to me. So I worked, tons with Aerosmith and Boston, and I would like shoot, go back out on the road, bring all the slides. I have all these slides now with ST, okay, Stephen or JP for Joe Perry. Yeah. They'd actually have them sign them, so there was no issue with whether it was a thumbs up or thumbs down. I still have all those in my files, but I like to work with them because there are always lots of images. I don't need to put up some, scummy picture.
What is the best compliment you ever got on one of your photos?
I can't think of I guess the compliment is this. Bands would hire me, like Aerosmith, 25 years, Boston, 30 years. The fact that we were all friends and we worked together for many, many years. Same with Nuge, 5 album covers. When I started working with him, he was just on the other side of the political spectrum, but we liked each other. It's like politics aside.
That can happen in 2020. I wasn't aware that could still be a thing.
Well, here's what Ted said. He said, Ron, I'm from the country, you're from the city. We'll never agree. Let's just never talk politics. So, okay, fine. We never did. But nice. I would go to his house in the summer, take pictures of him as kids, do some archery, do some canoeing.
You would do archery with Ted Nugent?
Oh, yeah. He tried to get me to shoot guns. I would do target practice. He's like, he's just, hey, Ron, let's get in the Bronco and go catch something.
Not surprisingly, I can picture that from Ted Nugent, but it's good to hear that's a good relationship. So when you're talking album covers too, that must be you're still looking for the money shot, right? But is there something else you're looking for when it comes to an album cover? Is that different than just looking for the newsmaker that might make a front page headline? Is the album cover specifically something different? Typically,
I'm just looking at the wall here, and there are very few live shots. Rick Derringer is live. They're all posed shots. Yeah, all of them. It's not, occasionally, like the classics would be Dylan's greatest hits, that silhouette shot. Everybody knows it was a live shot, or Frampton Comes Alive. The friends of mine took those, and that's a money shot. That's totally a money shot. But usually when you're doing an album cover, it's a setup, it's a plan. Here's one for you that when Joe Perry split from Aerosmith and he had the Joe Perry project, the album that he had, his second album, I think it was going to be called There's No Substitute for Arrogance. It got changed, but that was the working title. And we were going down to shoot it in South Station at the big bank, the stainless steel bank building down there.
Okay.
And he, when he came over to my studio, we had all these plans. I'd worked with the art director at CBS, Columbia Records, and he was going to be standing on a rubble pile with his guitar and this new stainless steel, but they hadn't even opened it yet, gleaming building in the background. So when he came over, he's there like 10 minutes, and his Alyssa, his wife, called, and she thought the baby was sick, the new baby, and this was ill. It was nothing serious, but just, I gotta go. I said, give me 5 minutes. So I put him against the backdrop, took him outside, put him against a brick wall in my backyard, and he was gone. 5, maybe 10 minutes we shot. We had all the plans got thrown out. We had the mock-ups gone, and the CBS art department came up with a great album cover and a great posters and all the promo out of a 10-minute photo session.
Wow.
So it's like, you got to do what you got to do, even the best laid plans out the window.
It must be a good adrenaline rush. Again, we're joined by Ron Pownall. So much of his work is featured here in Wang Theater, celebrating 95 years, looking back at a lot of these epic concerts. One of these names that jumps out to me, a lot of people are probably wondering why it's taken me so long to ask about this, but is it correct that you got the 4 nights of Springsteen back in the day?
The 4 nights?
Yes, I had a note here. I believe that you shot Springsteen, or
I shot Bruce everywhere. I first shot him in '74. John Landau's brother, David Landau's a guitarist in Boston, and he said, "Hey, let's zip down to Providence and see this cat that my brother thinks is really good." 800-seater. It's still there. I forget what it's called now. It's built like the Berkeley Performance Center. So that's that kind of 800 seats. So anyway, we went down, and I met him, and I ended up photographing him for the next, 15 years. And he would always give me passes, tickets to every show. I just call up the office. Yeah, got you covered. So it was a great relationship with Bruce. He was a great guy.
Oh, that's cool to hear. And was that for solo tours and for E Street Band tours, or?
No, it was all E Street Band back then.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Yeah, solo tours came later.
It must be.
To show you, if you got a second, a quick story about Bruce.
Sure.
I was producing a tour program for Aerosmith. This would have been in '77. And Bruce played at the Boston Music Hall, and I went to the show, and the next day I had to ship the storyboards for Aerosmith's tour program to New York, to their manager's office. I happened to, after the show backstage with Bruce at the Music Hall, I mentioned that I had to get these storyboards down in New York the next day, and I'd put them on a plane. And you could, back then, you could put packages on planes. Yeah. And you'd have somebody at the other end pick it up at the airport. So I'd mentioned it to Bruce, said, "Hey man, I'll take it down for you." I said, "Don't be silly." "I insist, man." So I went to my studio, went over to the Hyatt, dropped the package off with Bruce, and he dropped it off at Aerosmith's manager's office the next day.
That is too funny. You got Bruce Springsteen doing errands for you.
Yeah, he's doing errands for me. He was at CBS, and Aerosmith's manager was the next block over. So he knew where he'd be going. And anyway, great guy.
Crazy. So you make these relationships with these artists, and I imagine they learn to trust you. And I mean, that's why they, hire you again and want you around for the pictures. When the pictures, they call you. And I wonder, do you become like almost like a go-to guy, and they're, come backstage? I mean, I'm under the impression you've probably seen some things backstage in the rock star life.
Indeed. You should see my files that are under lock and key.
What are the PG?
The light of day.
What are the PG versions that you can give me? Because I mean, people are always fascinated about it.
Just to show you the trust thing. Yeah. With Aerosmith, their manager at the time, David Krebs, they were the bad boys from Boston. So he wasn't into having pictures of them being smiley and lovey-dovey in any sort of way. He was like the bad boys from Boston, the Toxic Twins. So their manager wanted to keep that feeling of the band. Well, I had taken, and they didn't smile a lot. They were kind of tough band to get a group shot, to get all 5 guys looking good at the same instant. Well, we were in Terre Haute, Indiana, flying to Evansville on a private little plane. And I arranged to do a photo session on the tarmac at the airport. And it was a fun it was a 3-gig tour, Evansville, Dayton, and Terre Haute, secondary markets on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So it was very simple. There wasn't the entourage. Like the guys got into it was a Learjet. I jumped on board, road manager. We zipped out, 3 shows and home. And every night they played at a local club. So it wasn't like they had to worry about kids or girlfriends or wives. It was just the 5 guys zipping for 3 days. So they were in such a good mood that whole time. I got them on this a bench in the middle of a tarmac runway at the airport or on the side of it. And they're all smiling. But I couldn't use the picture because they'd asked me to not use that picture. So I kept it buried. I had a big 30 by 40 in my studio because I liked the picture, but it never was put out there. A few years ago, let's see, the History Channel, A&E, there's a History Channel was trying to hip themselves up. So they decided to do a story on Joe and Stephen. And they hired me to sort of consult, and they came into my studio, put me on a chair and filmed me. And right in back is this big smiley picture that for 20 years has never been broadcast. They used that to promote the show.
Oh, wow.
But this is way past the Bad Boys from Boston era.
Yes.
But I had kept it under wraps for all those years.
Now we're...
So the thing is the trust. That's what I'm getting to here.
Yeah, we went from Bad Boys to the Nice Judge on American Idol era, right?
Indeed.
You know, on that note, is it fascinating for you? Because, I mean, you've so many of these artists. I mean, it's incredible. I think sometimes we take it for granted, the longevity of some of these artists. I mean, Aerosmith, I mean, not during a pandemic, but right up to it, they're doing full-fledged tours. Springsteen, same thing. So many of these bands that are decades and decades that have stuck together, coming out with new music still. I mean, it's must be fascinating for you to see them still going strong, being introduced to new audiences, new fans.
Well, it is totally amazing. One thing that's helped that is, we're all older, and so the wild, crazy times of back then are, that's in the rear view mirror. People work out, they train, it's just different.
Like you want to elaborate on those crazy times a little bit more. I know there's some PG stories in there.
It's either X or PG. There's no middle ground. What are you talking about, Drew?
Fair enough. But yeah, to get back to your point.
That's why they trust me.
There you go. I'm not going to get about it. That is
sorry.
What's the, musicians can, I do know that as great of relationships as you have struck, it can be a stressful job. There can be a lot of stress on these musicians. I'm sure you've caught 1 or 2 on a bad day. What is that like, working with musicians that you can just tell have woken up on the wrong side of the bed and it might be a long day? Okay, here's another little story. Let's see, Queen did their second tour at the Boston Music Hall. As a matter of fact, they opened it up in the States in 75, I guess it was. And they played 2 nights. And the local WEA record guy, Kurt Nerlinger, got me a pass. So I went the first night of 2 nights and shot the show. The next night, I'm walking around backstage with my little stick-on pass, not any fancy laminate, just photo date. And this guy, very tall guy in a suit, comes up to me and says, "Excuse me, what are you doing here with the camera?" I said, "Oh, I know Kurt Nerlinger," the local guy. He said, "I don't care who you know, pal. You're out of here.
That's my band. Nobody shoots my band without my permission.
Ooh.
And he's literally having me escorted out the stage door. And I said, I shot him last night. You want to see the pictures? So he said, okay, wait. He looked at the pictures. He said, these aren't bad. Let me put you in the pit for tonight and bring me contact sheets tomorrow. So next morning I made contact sheets, or probably that night, made the contact sheets, went over to the Park Plaza where he was staying. And he looked at him, he said, tell you what, let me fly you to New York. They're playing 3 nights at the Beacon. They're doing an in-store at EJ Corvettes. Will you come down and shoot it? I said, yeah. We hit it off. I ended up working for that guy for 20 years. He was the biggest publicity agent in LA. Liza Minnelli, Joel Grey, Elton John, Eric Severide, Kurt Gowdy, more. Anyway. So, but he was my mentor. So he taught me things like, to get back to your question, he taught me things like, I will send you, like you're on the East Coast, you'll become my East Coast guy if this works out. I'm going to send you Liza Minnelli. She comes to you. And by the way, don't think you're going to have Liza Minnelli in your studio for 4 hours with wind machines and 3 hairstylists. Ain't going to happen. You're going to be given oftentimes very little time. And it might be a time when whoever the artist is in a crummy mood. You've got to be photographer and shrink. Figure out how to get them in a good mood. Figure out how on a 10-minute, 15-minute photo session you get the results. And he said, I realize that not every photo session will be the best work you've ever done. But what I'm looking for, I'll have a need. I'll have a need for images for PR for a tour, whatever it is. He said, I need something. You figure it out. And he said, I never want to hear you say, oh, I ran out of film. Sorry, Dick. Or my batteries ran out. Or I brought the wrong lens. He said, that's the sign of a non-professional. And I was very young at the time. So he said, you've got to have all that stuff in order. Turns out about 10 years later, Liza Minnelli is in fact doing a world tour. I get 6 minutes to do her photographs. And so I was frightened, actually. I knew it was going to happen the next week. So I got a room. They were at the Randolph at the Chateau de Ville. They'd rented it for rehearsals. So I went down the day before, got that 8-foot wide, rolling backdrops, big red one, set it up, went down, shot, test rolls. So the next day, and I borrowed cameras from photographer friends. So I had like 6 cameras, all with the f-stops taped on each lens, so I wouldn't accidentally hit anything. And we just shot, boom, 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 boom. She was amazing, amazing. Like 3/4 of the shots were great. She was an actress. It wasn't like a rock and roll band. Anyway, the point was being a shrink. And with a lot of bands, you have to, be funny, be goofy, get them out of their mood, because you need the results.
Wow. Again, Ron Pownall joining us. As you can hear here, he's one of the best music photographers out there. And what stories you have. I wondered, kind of bouncing around a little bit, because I'm trying to touch on a lot of these bands that you've touched on. I am speaking to you from Danvers, Massachusetts, which is the hometown of Brad Delp. You went to high school here. You said you covered Boston a little bit. Did you get to know him a little bit? And I know that was a tough loss for so many.
Tough loss for everybody who knew him, for sure. Yes, we became very good friends. All the band. Here's how I met them. Their second gig, they were on the road. I shot their second gig at Leary Field in Waltham. They were the opening act for Duke and the Drivers, the Road Apples, and Boston. They'd only played one other gig. And what they were wearing at this gig, they should pay me to hide that negative, those negatives. They hadn't quite got it figured out yet. Anyway, that was in August of '76. In October, More Than a Feeling came out in September. And More Than a Feeling was one of those songs you heard it once and you're dialing the station. What was that? I got to hear it again. It was just Amazing, amazing song. So in October, they were third on the bill. That was Foghat, James Gang, and Boston. And they were playing at the Providence Civic Center, Dunkin' Donuts now. So I went in and I was shooting it for Rolling Stone had called me that afternoon, said, can you get down there? So I took one of those 8-foot backdrops, got a saw 2 feet off of it so it fit in my car, ran down, taped it up in the dressing room, and photographed them. This is 76, a shot that I still license to this day. Anyway, we happened to hit it off, the band and I. They're all great guys. So they had their own plane in January. So I was all over Japan, all the US with those guys. Brad was just as sweet as, I couldn't believe a guy that's so quiet could get on stage and do what he did. He transformed into somebody else, but just a sweet, sweet guy.
Yeah, you always do hear that about him. Everybody says quiet, soft-spoken, and then that big voice hitting all those high notes.
Unbelievable. Get goosebumps.
Yeah, and it's right. Michael, listen to some of that after this. We always end the show with a little bit of rapid fire. First thing that comes to mind, quick answers. Can you up for it?
Sure.
Don't worry, you'll handle this just fine.
Can you hit pause in between?
No, this is
okay.
fun.
Here we go.
All right. Favorite show experience you've ever been to?
Pink Floyd.
Pink Floyd.
At the music hall.
At the music hall. All right. Very good.
I would tell you this story, but we don't have time. You go first.
Okay. No, I'm not going to cut you off from that. Tell me.
Okay. It's one of the best endings to a show ever. 1973, Dark Side had just come out. They're touring it. But the way they did it, the first half of the show was stuff from Omagoma and Metal. And then they took a break. Then they came back into Dark Side. Then they took a break, and there was a call for an encore, and they did an encore. So for the encore, and they never talk. Rarely do they don't say much. They just do the music, right? Mm-hmm. So they come out, and Roger Waters says, we thought we'd play a little blues number for you. So they just start a blues jam. And there is a version of it on one of the early albums, and I've forgotten the name of it. But so they're just playing this jam. And while they're playing it, the lights start to come down. And there's 4 of them, each with 36 colored lights. And they come down like on a hydraulic lift. They fold down and they go into a black plywood box, like a shipping box, what do you call it? A road case. So while they're playing, the lights turn off, they all go down into boxes, and the crew rolls them off stage. Then they turn on the really bright white work lights. They keep playing, Rick Wright's playing his keyboards, and the crew comes out and start taking away the keyboards. And all of a sudden, he's got no more keyboards. He walks off stage. So the 3 of them are left. They come out, they take away Waters' gong, unplug his bass, push his stuff. So it's still Gilmore and Nick Mason playing Nick on the drums. And they come out, they take away Gilmore's amps, speakers, unplug. He walks off. And there's just Nick Mason. He's there on the drums playing, They take away the kit. There's a snare left. One of the guys, the crew comes out, takes a snare. He gets up, throws the drumsticks into the crowd, picks up the throne, and walks off an empty stage. They load it out during the blues jam.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
I don't think I've ever seen that move recreated.
Oh, no, I certainly haven't. No, that was like, I don't know if they were just trying that to see if they had to get to Philadelphia for the next gig and didn't have time. Who knows?
Man, that is funny. All right, well, let's keep rolling. Let's say, who's your favorite, just when it comes to music, take out personalities, who's your favorite person to sit down and listen to?
Hard to pick one. I love Steely Dan.
Steely Dan. Who's the nicest person in rock and roll?
Bruce.
Really?
But they're I told you that story. I mean,
yeah.
But,
well, he's doing errands for you, I guess.
You could say Brad. Yeah, there's so many.
Yeah.
Steve Tyler's a really nice guy.
Yeah.
In fact, when they said he was on, was that show, American Idol?
Yeah.
Like, that didn't make sense. He's too nice. He'll never blast anybody.
Yeah, it's working for him though. Apparently, people seem to. I don't know if he's still on. I don't even know. It worked for him.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of you could that could be a very big list.
All right, Can you give me the? I don't want to say the most difficult, but can you give me the person that was kind of maybe caught you off guard to work with? Who's the person that maybe surprised you the most?
Yeah, this person is a real asshole. His name, and I won't say anymore.
All right, very good. Favorite venue to shoot?
Oh my. The Paradise.
Paradise. Okay, small
I
little.
had my own lights in the Paradise.
Okay.
So I worked, when they set it up, I worked with Don Law, and we had 32 foot by 3 foot photos in the front room. So I had my own setup, and it allowed me to supplement the house lights. So, and it was small, it was 500 seats, great acts.
Yeah.
I mean, the people that I shot there could be like the music hall,
Oh yeah.
Everybody played there.
I went to see, I think the last time I was at the Paradise was probably a couple winters ago, and I saw Dispatch come play a couple nights there. And the photographer, I remember there's not much room up front for shooting the band.
No.
It's a small place in general. I'm sure everything is not as much room as other places. But what do you do? Do you bounce around there? You can go up a little bit too, right?
Yeah, there's some places up and back on either side. You can shoot. In fact, I just have on my Instagram account, two entries back is Bob Weir. And I was in back of him shooting into the crowd. And it's a really different kind of shot. He's smiling, the crowd's all happy. It's like sweaty rock and roll. That's what it's supposed to be in the Paradise.
Is there a favorite spot in any crowd to shoot from? Do you like being in front, side stage? Do you like being far away?
What's great is if you're on the road, you can change it up. If you're stuck for, hired by somebody to shoot one night at one gig for a band, you want to be in front. And if you can go laterally in front, like if it's the Garden, there's the Pit. But say like the music hall, they've got levels that are just slightly above the crowd, so you can shoot from farther back with more of a telephoto lens that will like compress. If you're trying to get a band shot, a lot of times if you're dead center with a wide angle shooting up, people are small, the band members are small. But you get farther back with a telephoto, you can kind of compress them so they look more the same size. So that's a great aspect of the Wang Center musical.
Who's the artist that you got the call, said you gotta go get me some pictures here? You went. You probably maybe you weren't a huge fan. Who's the show that you went to and then you were completely turned? You became a fan for life.
Huh. Most people I knew coming in. I'll have to pass on that. I can't think of a scenario where I was totally surprised.
Or how about a blown away moment then? Let me twist that story just a little bit. How about a blown away moment where like you got some of the best shots of your life and just maybe you weren't expecting it. Some moment of the show turned.
Two concerts. The Stones at the Garden when they got arrested in Providence. They tried to fly in for the gig. Stevie Wonder's the opening act. It was July, it's not air conditioned, it's 18,000 kids in a 95 degree Boston Garden. The Stones get arrested in Providence. They got diverted to Providence because of the fog at Logan. So they're down there. Mick and Keith both get into a fight with the paparazzi who went out to the airport in Warwick. They get thrown in jail. So you got 18,000 kids sweating, wanting the Stones. They hadn't played in 3.5 years. So there was a need for Stones. Kevin White, the mayor back then, came out on stage and said, I've got good news, I've got bad news. Bad news is Mick and Keith are in jail. in Providence. The good news is I called the governor of Rhode Island. I had them, I bailed them out. I've got a 6-car police escort to bring them from Providence to the Garden. I'm suspending the curfew. They can play as long as they want. And I'm having the T run till whenever the show's over. The crowd goes wild. And they knew this is, so Stevie played an extra, whatever, he extended his set. The Stones played until past 1 o'clock in the morning. And it was an electric show. It was absolutely electric. And it worked out. Kevin White was a brilliant politician.
Yeah.
So I have pictures, you can find them online, of Kevin. Actually, that might be on my Instagram too. When he came out and he's in front of the crowd trying to.
So you're just hanging there waiting. That must be strange. You see the mayor of Boston come up. That's unexpected at a concert.
Totally. And the guy who was Chip Monk from Woodstock, he was the announcer, and he kept pleading for calm. And finally, the mayor came. And the other show where things worked out really well that I didn't think would was Bruce, 1984 at the Worcester Centrum. Now, he was playing out there, and I'd called his office in New York to get tickets. Barbara Carr was John Landau's assistant, and so, hey, Ron, I knew I'd expect your call, We have a problem, though. Bruce, by this time, had gotten so big. She said, we hired a credentialing company to credential everybody. And Bruce is playing 2 nights. His, I lost my train of thought. Hang on. It'll come back. You cut that out.
Friendliest guy.
So here's what she said. She said, we're only giving 3 photo passes per show. That would be the Boston Globe, Boston Herald, and the Worcester Telegram and Gazette. She said, but I've got you great seats, and I've got you 2 passes for tomorrow night. So I go out, and I couldn't go and not take pictures. So I snuck in a camera. I had a camera body stuffed down my pants and a lens wrapped around my leg, and my buddy had a bunch of rolls of Tri-X. The seats were 8th row, dead center, on the center aisle. And he did first and second set. I didn't shoot during the first set because I was afraid to get tossed by security. Second half, everybody's on their seat. So for the first time shooting Bruce, instead of being in the pit, shooting up close, I'm back out shooting at eye level. So probably my most iconic Bruce shot, he is looking directly into my lens at eye level, probably saying, what the heck are you doing out there? You're usually shooting up my nose. Anyway, it's just one of those shots where the focus, the lighting, his expression was right on, but it happened in a scenario where I wasn't even supposed to shoot. But I couldn't go and not shoot.
Yeah. It's funny. He's my guy. He has that way of connecting with people. I have seen him, he recognizes big fans and I've heard him say this too. He'll look into the crowd and you can connect with certain people, and he says that's what you do it for. And I've kind of had those strange moments with him, sometimes lucky enough to be up close some nights, and sometimes not even close. And he looks to our group and says, we'll give you a fist pump or something. He connects with the fans. It's great.
He does.
The last question I will ask you, because I've taken more time than I promised because I'm enjoying it. So that's
all right. That's fine.
But I would ask you, what is the best career advice you ever got for maybe the young photographer?
Shoot.
Yeah.
And if you're in clubs, starting out in clubs, don't use a flash. And nowadays you don't have to. But if you're in a club that's sort of moody, wait for the lights to come up. Don't waste, you're not wasting film, so forget that. You can shoot when it's dark. But it just makes sense to wait till it gets brighter. And if there's a lot of red, shoot black and white. Because it will record better in black and white as opposed to having so much red saturation.
Excellent. I like that. And I love the idea of you sneaking in cameras while other people are sneaking in other things to concerts. That's fantastic.
I did.
Got to do what you got to do.
You got to do what you got to do. What do you mean I'm not on the guest list?
I'll show you.
Yeah.
Well, Ron, this is a pleasure, man. I hope we can do it again sometime. I really enjoyed it, talking music. I'm sure I'm going to think of a million other things I'd want to ask you here, but I guess you don't have days to
Do it again sometime.
Absolutely, man. Be good. Stay safe. Hope everybody's doing well in quarantine here, all right?
Thank you, Drew. Good
All
fun.
right. We'll see
Take
you.
care, buddy.
Thanks.
See you. Bye.
All right. How about that? Ron Pownall. Obviously, that's right up my alley. Great music stories. Went a little long with him, so I'll wrap it up there. That does it for the week. Great way to end it. Music stories, Springsteen, Boston, Aerosmith, Pink Floyd, Janis Joplin. My goodness. Who hasn't he seen? That's probably a better question. There's one question I already forgot to ask him. Who hasn't he seen? That answer might be nobody. Unbelievable wealth of knowledge there. Maybe we'll try to have him on again. I feel like I have a lot more to ask him too. Thank you, Ron, for a great interview here. And I also should mention again, a lot of his work is featured in the Wang Theater, celebrating 95 years, a way to kind of bring some attention to the Wang here through a pandemic. So many of these theaters are struggling. Everybody have a safe weekend. Hope everybody's doing well through the pandemic. Those 70-degree days, I think, have moved away from us. We'll see. It's New England. You never know. Be safe, everybody. Live from Drew's house. Bye-bye now.